Hi guys, it's Darcy. So I'm here today to talk about first pages, and I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to start with my disclaimer, which is that I am not a publishing professional. I did spend a summer reading slush for a small press, so I do have a little bit of experience in first pages and kind of being able to tell what works and what doesn't. But I'm not currently working in publishing. I'm not agented. I'm not published. This is just what I have learned with my process and based on mostly feedback from critique partners and such. So jumping right in, I first want to talk about the best class that I ever took on first pages was from Brianne Johnson, who is an agent at Writer's House. She did a class at Storymakers in 2016, I believe, and it was a fantastic class. I still have my notes. She talked about in your first page what you want. There are 5 things that you want to get across. You want to get across character, tone, setting, a balance of action versus info, and the mystery or the conflict of the story, or some sense of it, right? You might not be able to get the whole conflict or the big problem on the page on the very first page, right? But you want to get kind of a sense of it, right? And so she talked about all of these things in much more detail, and I would love to give you guys a little bit more information about that if you're interested. But those are the 5 things that I try to look for in particular when I'm revising, right? So when I'm drafting, and like I said in a couple videos ago, I think, when I'm drafting, I just spit it out. I don't think about anything craft-wise. I just get the story out. I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands so much. So I try not to think too much about it. But when I'm revising, tools like this are extremely helpful because I can go in and actually look for something. Okay, so I want to read to you a couple of first pages of my own. Both of which I sent to a critique partner, and she helped me kind of figure out which one was better. And it's really obvious after the fact once I thought about it. So I'll read the first 2. I'll read you 2 first pages. Here we go. Britta never liked her birthdays. Sure, there'd been exciting ones back when she was young, when she had parents, a house, a comfortable future. Stars, she could barely remember those times. Now, only Dax remembered her birthday. Her brother was a perpetually happy kid. Well, he wasn't really a kid anymore, but Britta still thought of him that way. The unfamiliar box on her nightstand was definitely of his make. Small, fashioned from unfinished pine, an ashy yellow shade. She drew it under her covers for privacy. The rest of the girls were waking as well, just before the morning sunbreak, as usual. The lid came off easily, and the inside was stuffed with thick green leaves. Britta pulled them out one by one and gasped at the tentative light shining up through them. A sunstone, no bigger than her smallest fingernail, nestled in the leaves. It glowed with the characteristic yellow light she saw on the street every day, on the cuffs of fine men, the necklaces of elegant women. It might have been dangerous to put the stone in a wooden box, but it didn't have a setting, and she couldn't draw heat from it without one. This was probably all Dax could afford, not that she knew how he'd afforded it anyway. He earned less than she did. She took the stone between 2 fingers, examining its oval shape and smooth surface. There was some warmth there, but it felt like a slightly feverish forehead rather than a blazing flame. Nothing like the huge sunstones mounted at street corners to fend off ice. No, this was more decoration than functional. Still, she appreciated the gift. If things got bad, at least she could sell it for food. It was far more valuable than the unknown gem in her mother's necklace. So that's the first page. And here's the second. Cold. It was always cold, just different kinds depending on where she was. Britta tossed her pickaxe in the pile with the rest and stuffed her hands in her pockets. Didn't matter whether she was working the mines with sweat running down her face or wrapped up in blankets in the middle of the night at the workhouse. She hadn't been truly warm in years. 2 years, actually. 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days, if you were counting. Britta, a rough voice shouted behind her. She came to a halt, eyes rolling. Don't you leave that lying there. Put it away properly. Yes, boss. Trying not to let her annoyance show on her face, she turned, picked up the pickaxe she'd just thrown, and laid it down gently beside the others, as a parent would a child they'd finally gotten to sleep. She looked over at Master Delvin. Better? Master Delvin grunted, his mustache quivering and a knit cap nearly covering his eyes. I've never liked your attitude, girl, and it's gotten worse recently. I want to see some improvement or you'll be out of a job. Understand? Trying to ignore how much she wanted to sneer at him, Britta forced a smile. Of course, boss. I'll try. He grunted once more and turned away, looking for someone else to yell at. Britta's smile fell away as she hurried past the rest of the workers. The mines were deep and dark, but since she was still 16, she worked near the entrances. What I wanted to point out with those two things is, those two first pages, is the first one is all internal, right? There's nothing happening. She's looking at a box, she's thinking, there's no dialogue, there's no action, like nothing is happening. The second one, we may not get quite as much background on the world, but we get a lot more character, we get a lot more action, and it's a lot more engaging. It may not be perfect. I'm obviously going to revise it and hopefully make it better. But between the two, you know, in retrospect now, I can tell it's obvious to me which one is better. And the second one also leads to a chapter that is more engaging and that gives more background of the character and hooks us a little bit more. What you want to try to do is get people interested, right? You really want every page to do that, but the first pages in particular, you want to make sure that you give enough to hook the reader and draw them in. That's the goal. So again, that's just a few tips, some things to think about when you're improving your first page. For me, like I said, I don't think too much about those things when I'm first drafting it, but when I'm revising, those kinds of tools are very, very helpful to think about. Looking for the places where I'm giving character or world building or information, and making sure there's action and action being things are happening, not like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like a sword fight or somebody dying, right? We just need to see things happening, and that's what draws us in and helps us care about the character. So I hope that helps, and good luck with your first pages. And let me know if you have any questions, just put them in the comments in the bottom. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye.